Welcome to another exciting edition of Marvelous Videos. Today's video will be special as we're going to talk about a special comic book mashup in the horror genre and one of its most significant characters. Let's give a little spoiler. It's about a woman who has the traits of dreaded serial killer Jason Voorhees. She's introduced in this exciting mashup of three popular franchises: Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Evil Dead. What role does she play in this mashup? Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, the Nightmare Warriors. Is she as dangerous as Jason? The answers to this lie in this video, along with the narration of this story.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Who is the female version of Jason Voorhees? This person is none other than Stephanie Kimble, Jason's grandniece. Stephanie and her mother, Jessica, have an extraordinary power: the blood of the Voorhees. Jessica's mother, after all, was Diana Kimble, Jason's half-sister. The mother-daughter duo are said to either resurrect Jason or finish him off, since it's easier for people in the bloodline to deal with Jason. In the past, Jessica defeated Jason when he tried using Stephanie for his murderous rampages, saving her daughter, who was an infant then. However, as a teenager, she suffers from nightmares of Jason. No amount of psychiatric intervention has been of help, and her father is very disappointed. Stephanie is then called to Baltimore to participate in a plan by one Dr. Maggie Burroughs, who wants to defeat the undead villains by using the powers of their survivors. Stephanie's nightmares are more than just psychological trauma. After all, she has Voorhees blood in her. Towards the climax, she dons a hockey mask to impersonate Jason. But how does she behave? Listen on to find out. Issue number 1. The first issue opens up at a frozen crystal lake. Someone has made a hole in the icy surface and has woken up the notorious dormant slasher Jason Voorhees. Jason sees a soul talking to him. It's his mother, Pamela, who tells him to wake up from his slumber and go after a certain Ashley Williams, aka Ash, of Evil Dead fame. Pamela's soul says, "You can't die. It's a gift I gave you long ago with the reading of the book, the Necronomicon." She further adds that by killing Ashley, who's responsible for killing him and throwing him back in Crystal Lake, he will gain his powers and be at peace. A pumped-up Jason then holds up a copy of the Necronomicon on the lake's icy surface. Shortly after, a convoy of FBI vehicles arrives at the lake bed. Its team leader, Gordon Russell, asks the hazmat team to remove the book on the lake's surface, which they need for a crucial project. The book is successfully extracted, and before leaving, Russell's subordinate tells the team of hazmat experts to get the corpse, along with them, to the headquarters, and use extreme force to restrain it if necessary. Two divers get ready and find Jason's corpse, but to their horror, they see him alive before meeting their bloody end. Jason jumps out of the lake and kills the other experts brutally. After engaging in a bloody battle with them, he then heads to find his target, Ash. Meanwhile, on July 2nd, Ash is preparing a barbecue party with his partner, Caroline, in Franklin, Michigan, while frying patties in his house's backyard with a spatula attached to his metal prosthetic arm. He thinks about how he stopped fighting undead villains and is happy with his new retired life. The doorbell rings, and Caroline opens the door to find Maggie at their doorstep on the search for Jason and one Freddy Krueger of A Nightmare on Elm Street fame, both of who were killed by Ash in Crystal Lake 6 months ago. Maggie asks Ash to help them find the undead antagonists, who have been on the loose and left behind a bloody trail, but Ash blatantly refuses. He points to a chainsaw, once on his prosthetic arm, and says that he will no longer take up weapons. Maggie leaves, saying that she's confident that Ash will join them. As the couple goes back to their party preparations, Caroline says they're out of alcohol and requests Ash to go and buy some drinks. After Ash leaves to buy them, Jason arrives at the scene and attacks Caroline. Even after putting up a fight, Caroline is overpowered by Jason and is ruthlessly murdered. While on the way home, Ash gets a feeling that he saw Freddy and rushes home to see if Caroline is safe. What he sees next shocks him. The house is in a mess. Caroline's decapitated body had been pinned to one of the walls, and her head is sizzling on the barbecue. A horrified Ash shuts the barbecue and vows to kill Jason and Freddy. In the meantime, Caroline's parents come in, shocked to see their daughter killed in such a manner. Her father then starts blaming Ash, who pleads innocence. Freddy and Jason have teamed up. It was Freddy who impersonated Pamela to wake Jason up and hunt Ash down. Back in the Pentagon, Russell reveals his plan to acquire the Necronomicon to build a powerful army of the undead that can help ensure the world's safety. Meanwhile, two other people experience deja vu when these killers arrive. Alice Johnson, one of Freddy's survivors, and of course, Stephanie Kimble. Issue number 2. The second issue opens with Ash escaping after fending off Caroline's father while promising to catch her killer. The cops arrive at the scene to investigate, and an unknown man in an SUV observes Ash's movements. Certain that Jason will follow him, Ash boards a train for Baltimore to meet Maggie and find Caroline's killer. Ash, unfortunately, is in the news, being accused of his partner's gruesome murder. Jason follows Ash in the train's freight car and carries out his meaningless, murderous spree on a few hapless people on the way. Back in the government lab, Russell oversees the experiment he talks about in issue number 1. The Necronomicon is held over a pod-like structure and a translator machine, which looks like a laser weapon, aims at the book and further onto the pod. Once the experiment is done, Russell goes and checks the pod. It's Freddy Krueger in human form. Freddy is then taken into an interrogation room where Russell interrogates him about his notorious powers, which he used to kill children, and tries to understand if the Necronomicon played a huge role in this. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, Maggie sees a nightmare and wakes up saying, "Daddy's back." The next day, she tells her husband Neil, also her psychiatrist, about her plan to gather the survivors of the attacks by Freddy and Jason. She has her own plan to counter the evils by harnessing the survivors' powers. Neil disapproves of the plan, but does not protest against it. Stephanie is the first person to reach Maggie's house with her father. Stephanie's father is not very keen on the meeting, but she believes that this would help her forget the trauma inflicted by Jason. They enter the house, and while introducing themselves, Stephanie starts having seizures. She starts getting visions of Jason's mindless murders from the Baltimore train journey. Jason kills 3 tramps, attempting to assault a woman sexually, but takes her life as well. Meanwhile, the news of the murders reaches Russell, who's interrogating Freddy, and he orders to form a special team to get Jason arrested. Once Stephanie recuperates, more guests, including Ash, enter the scene. An angry Ash accuses Maggie of hiding the possibility of Caroline's murder, but then sits with the group, hoping to get a lead on Jason by helping her. Jason suddenly breaks into Maggie's house and kills Stephanie's father, shocking her. As Ash takes cover, the person stalking Ash and Franklin rams into Maggie's house with his SUV, running over Jason. The man, wearing a balaclava, asks all the survivors to hop into the SUV, and they drive off before Jason lifts himself up. Maggie asks the driver who he is. He removes his balaclava and introduces himself. It's Tommy Jarvis, Jason's nemesis. Issue number 3. This issue starts with the survivors escaping to take refuge in a motel. The secret agents meanwhile enter the scene and manage to attack Jason before taking his corpse to the Pentagon. Meanwhile, at the motel, Maggie tells Ash that all the people with him in the room are survivors of the attacks of Freddy or Jason, and that they should visit Russell, who's allegedly her adoptive father. Not satisfied with the plan, Tommy goes shotgun in search of Jason. Meanwhile, at the Capitol, Jason is put in a cell full of other undead creatures, also known as the Deadites, before he is subjected to the Necronomicon experiment. Freddy then visits him and asks him to join hands so that they can defeat Ash, because of whom they died. Jason attacks Freddy, who tells him that Tina Shepard and Stephanie, 2 of Jason's survivors, will be there, and that he could also take revenge on them. They finally join hands to lead the undead army that will lay siege to Washington, D.C. and create a bloodbath. A group of Ash, Tina, and Alice, led by Maggie, enters the Capitol and requests to meet Russell. Maggie informs Russell that she has valuable information about Freddy that could aid the government's mission to form the good undead army. Russell agrees to take Maggie, his husband, and their friend Rennie to meet Freddy while the rest are locked in a cell. Ash is confused about why Maggie needed to introduce herself to her father, despite their relationship. Unfortunately, it's too late. Russell introduces Maggie and her companions to Freddy, who then transforms from his human to his monstrous form. He claims that it was because he spent a lot of time with the Necronomicon that he was able to master its spells and be indestructible. Russell pulls out Freddy's claw-like glove from his blazer and proceeds to attack him, but Maggie intervenes and grabs hold of it. She then wears it and stabs Russell brutally to death. Neil and Rennie watch, confused, as Maggie starts warming up to Freddy and confesses that she is Catherine Krueger, Freddy's daughter. Maggie then slashes Neil and Rennie to death, which Tina sees from her telecommunication power. The prison safety alarm suddenly starts ringing, and while Ash, Alice, and Tina try to escape, they see Jason and a group of Deadites creating bloody havoc in the jail. Issue number 4. Ash, Alice, and Tina fight off some Deadites while escaping the cell, while Freddy takes control of the translation laser gun and tries to attack the 3. Ash fights to get the Necronomicon copy in his possession. Meanwhile, Jason and the Deadites are on a bloody massacre in Washington, D.C., beheading people brutally and leaving a bloody trail behind. However, a homeless man survives a machete thrown towards him by Jason. It's Tommy in disguise. As the sworn enemies fight each other, some Deadites capture him and take him away to Freddy. After this, Jason and another group of undead creatures enter the Capitol building and brutally murder the congressman present there. Alice's son Jacob and Stephanie are alone in the motel room and get intimate until Stephanie, who is possessed by Freddy, ties Jacob to the bed and prepares to attack him. Alice finds out that her son has been trapped by Freddy and gets back to the motel using her powers. Freddy has entered Jacob's dream to attack him, and the three enter the nightmare. In the dream bubble, Ash prepares to attack Stephanie, who's possessed by Freddy. Freddy then comes out and flays her before escaping with Jason. However, since they are now in Stephanie's dream bubble, Tina and Alice manage to put Stephanie's skin back on her and save her, thus ensuring her safety in real life. At the White House, Freddy, Jason, and Maggie hold Tommy and Jacob hostage. Disguised as the U.S. president, Freddy addresses the nation live, announcing that he will take his modus operandi of killing children nationwide and worldwide. Horrified listening to this, Ash, Alice, and Tina break into a pawn shop and steal weapons to fight the evil Deadites and their two leaders. Issue number 5. This issue opens up with Washington, D.C. under siege. The massacre that Freddy and Jason have unleashed has resulted in a bloodbath, including rains of blood. Stephanie, feeling guilty about her father's death, disappeared, while Ash, Alice, and Tina are planning to take the Deadites down, but keep arguing on how to execute it. In the middle of this fiasco, a huge army battalion arrives at the White House and tries to fight the Deadites, but in vain. A powerful Freddy even shapeshifts into a cloud, making the army helicopters crash. That leaves Ash and his team with only one option: charge into the White House using brute force. Ash uses his chainsaw to decapitate some Deadites, and Tina uses her powers to move an obstructing army tank aside. Meanwhile, Stephanie passes out and sees a dream in which a priest gives refuge inside a nearby church. The priest then tells her, "You're a lucky one, Stephanie. Deep in your soul, you have a unique power. Your destiny lies with me, child." While explaining how she was lucky to escape the bloody purge going on outside, Stephanie is surprised to see that the priest knows her name. The priest is Freddy. Freddy hypnotizes Stephanie into believing that as someone who has the blood of the Voorhees clan in her, she's also destined to be a serial killer. The words take effect, and Stephanie is overcome with rage. She slashes Freddy, dons a hockey mask, and rushes out to kill, not to participate in the purge against humanity, but to kill her uncle Jason once and for all. After all, having the same blood does not mean that the uncle-niece duo's intentions must be the same. Back in the White House, Tommy and Jason are watched by Freddy, who is excited to kill Tommy. Jason, hearing this, gets enraged, as he also wants to kill Tommy and attacks Freddy. Both the antagonists get angry, and Freddy commands Maggie to fight with Jason. As the fight progresses, a tank suddenly runs into the building, running over Maggie and killing her on the spot. It's Ash driving the tank. He gets off and frees Jacob and Tommy. Tommy is still adamant about killing Jason, claiming that it is only he who can finish the Crystal Lake Killer for good. Outside on the premises, Alice tries to attack Freddy from behind, but Freddy overpowers her and fatally stabs her with his knifed glove. Jason comes running to the scene to try and save his mother, but in vain. Before dying, Alice transfers all her powers to Jacob, who carries forward the battle against Freddy along with the souls of the people he's killed. Issue number 6. At the beginning of the issue, the soul of Amanda Kruger, Freddy's mother, releases a huge beam of heat and burns some of the Deadites. The other souls then proceed to attack the undead creatures. With the Deadites finished, Freddy is shocked to see himself alone, as his mother calls him to the afterlife and atones for his sins. Freddy stabs Jacob in his abdomen, causing Amanda's soul to disappear. On seeing this, Ash and Tommy divide responsibilities. Ash heads to help Jacob and the girls, while Tommy single-handedly takes on Jason. While Tommy shouts at Jason that he killed all his loved ones except him, Jason overpowers him and is about to kill him when Stephanie comes from behind and stabs Jason in the back. Jason flings her away, but it's too late for him. Tommy gets his chance and beheads Jason, killing him. Ash, meanwhile, hands over the Necronomicon to Neil and tells him to use it and send Freddy, the lone survivor, back to hell. Neil cannot read a word of the book and is about to give up when the soul of Nancy Thompson, one of Neil's friends, and Freddy's multiple victims, arrives on the scene and helps him read the verses. A vortex opens up, and the heroes take cover. Freddy gets sucked into the vortex along with the Necronomicon and the Deadites, all angry at him for losing power. Freddy turns into his human self and begs Ash to forgive him and set him free, but Ash shoots him in the chest. Down goes Freddy into the vortex, ready to be pounced on by the Deadites. It's the 4th of July, and the bloody battle finally ends. The kids are being taken to a hospital for treatment before leaving for a well-earned vacation to Texas. Ash tells Tommy to take care of the kids and carry forward the war of killing the bad guys. Ash sets off satisfied, having avenged Caroline's death. Ash, Tommy, and the other survivors of Jason and Freddy's crimes have finally finished the two dreaded serial killers. However, Jason's mask, which Tommy split in half while fighting him, is shown, and Pamela's voice echoes from behind, "You can never die, Jason." In the end, Agent Wesley Carter, who's also pulled into the Necronomicon's vortex, finds himself in Springwood's police headquarters and finds Freddy's arrest warrant on his table. Carter remembers that the warrant was lost, but wastes no time signing it. This event alters history entirely, for Freddy will be arrested, and he will not return as the dreaded child murderer. Freddy Krueger is finally finished. Marvelous verdict. Every coin has two sides. Similarly, powerful abilities can be used for good and evil. Although Jason and Stephanie share the same strain of blood, their choices of using their powers are poles apart. Jason chooses to wreak havoc and kill people ruthlessly and mindlessly, while Stephanie uses her powers to defeat him and end the bloody siege on Washington, D.C., and also heal herself to a large extent. So yes, not all descendants of the Voorhees family are villains. Stephanie, undoubtedly, is one of the most crucial protagonists in this series. Well, that was one engaging story. We want to know what you think in the comments. If this video kept you on the edge of your seat, do share it with people you believe will also enjoy this story. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon. Have a great day.